Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Donna Steinfeld, Senior Associate Director for Advising Services at ISSS. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm here with my colleague, Madison McHale, an ISS advisor, and we are going to be going over this morning optional practical training and some of the steps and things to know when applying. So just as a note, this presentation is meant for F1 students, and our focus will be on post-completion OPT primarily, and that's for OPT for after you graduate. So we hope that this will be helpful. We'll see what we can answer question-wise during the chat, but we will leave time at the end for any questions that we're not able to address during the presentation for to answer at the end. And this recording will, just so you know, it is being recorded and will be posted on our website. So after this is done, once we get it all ready, it will be on the website in case anyone has questions regarding that. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Madison and I will see you shortly.
Hi, everyone. So as Donna said, I'm Madison McHale. I'm one of the ISSS advisors. Um, and yeah, let's get started. All right. So we'll start with the OPT basics. So the purpose of OPT is to be able to apply knowledge gained in the classroom to practical work experience. So regular OPT, there's two different types. There's pre-completion OPT and post-completion OPT. And for regular OPT, you do get 12 months per degree level. And then OPT is a application process that is authorized by USCIS, which is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. It's not an internal ISSS approval process. Eligibility. So you must currently be in a valid F1 status. Um, you should have completed at least one academic year in full-time, lawful status. You have not been authorized for OPT at the current degree level in the past. You've not been authorized for cumulatively 12 months or more of full-time CPT at the current degree level, and you do not need a job offer to apply for OPT. Types of employment. So OPT employment can be paid or unpaid. With unpaid, though, there's volunteering as well as, legitimate unpaid work is also permitted. I know with unpaid as well, it just can't be violating labor laws. Students can hold multiple positions, as well as during the OPT period, changing employers is permitted. In all positions, combined, if you have one position or more positions cumulatively, work hours need to be a total of a minimum of 20 hours per week for post-completion OPT. Okay, so one of the criteria is working directly in your field of study. Your employment must be directly related to that major field of study. And a common question we get is, how do I know if a job is related to my field of study? You want to be looking at, job duties versus, the actual type of company, but actually what the job duties entail themselves specifically, as well as comparing, those duties and that position to your major's required curriculum. And then also that you can easily justify the relationship. So, for example, in this job, my duties are going to be, A, B, and C, which are a direct relation to the such and such program that I, studied at Penn. So the clearer the justification, the better. Resources, if you have any questions related to this, or I get a question a lot about, well, what careers or employment can I go into with my degree of study? We say a great resource is your academic department. They know your program best, as well as alumni from that program, as well as career services here at Penn. And we just listed here, I know that the career services website, they have different resources, as well as we have a different resource here as well. Um, what can I do now with this major.com in terms of, trying to find ideas in terms of employment that's related to your field of study. Okay, so the OPT application process. So this is just a general overview, but we're going to go into each of these steps, but in more detail. But just want to give you an idea of just what the general overview from start to finish, what that's going to look like. And so the first is, the student, you're going to request OPT, DSO. Us advisors at ISSS, we're the DSOs. We recommend OPT. Then the student files the I-765, which is the application that you would fill out online with USCIS. And then USCIS adjudicates that, makes a decision. If it's approved, then you receive an EAD card in the mail. You start work, you report that employment to us, and then we are, adding that information to your CVIS record. So again, we're going to go into detail in each of these steps, but that's just the general kind of timeline and how each step, in the process goes. Okay, so post-completion OPT filing timeline for May graduates. So the 90-day window, which is the earliest that you can begin applying for OPT when you have a May 19th graduation date, which is the end of the spring semester this year. February 18th is when that window opened up. And then, so between now, since it's already past February 18th, between now and the end of your 60-day grace period, which for May 19th is July 18th, that is the latest that you can apply for OPT. So that we're right in the middle of that application window right now. All right, so now we are going to go into detail, and as I mentioned, with those steps in terms of each step of the application process. Okay, step one, request OPT. So we first highly recommend that you're reading the OPT section on our ISSS website, and we have the link there. I know too, with our new website, our search engine is really great. It's up when you're on our website up at the top right. So if you aren't, finding the OPT page right away, looking for it there, it should come up pretty quickly. We recommend that you do read through that because again, it goes over a detailed overview. Also, goes over how it says complete the OPT I-20 request form and IPEN, goes over instructions for those as well. But yeah, so once you've read through the website, you do go to the OPT I-20 requestee form and IPEN. What happens is you submit it, and then it initially will get routed to what we call secondary approver, which is your academic department. And then this is for, post-completion OPT requests only. We do have a couple requirements for that. So for post-completion OPT, we do have an OPT pen processing fee, as well as in the middle of that e-form, we do have an OPT tutorial that you are going to need to go through, review before the system will allow you to move on to be able to finish the rest of the e-form and submit it. And we say that it's post-completion OPT requests only because for pre-completion, we don't have these two requirements. Okay, next is DSO recommendations. So once your e-form, first you have submitted it, and then it's gone to your academic department, and then you receive an automated email saying, your academic department has completed their portion. It's back in the ISSS queue for processing. Once you receive that email, you will know, okay, it's back in the ISSS queue, and that's when our processing time starts on our end. So our e-form processing time is simply 3 to 5 business days. It can be up to 5 to 7 in peak time, but know that, we know that you're wanting to apply for OPT as soon as possible. We try to get these e-forms out of our queue as quickly as possible, but sometimes volume or whatever else is going on, we do need that buffer sometimes. So we do appreciate your patience while waiting for the form. If all goes well, we don't have any follow-up questions when we're processing it, you will get an email letting you know that it's approved, and attached to that email will be a new I-20 that will have the recommendation for OPT. It's going to show up on your second page of your I-20 where your travel signatures are. It's going to be up towards the top. That OPT information will be on that same page. The I-20, like I said, it's going to be attached to that email, so it's sent electronically, but even though it's sent electronically, you will need to print and sign the I-20. So yeah. Okay, next step, applying to USCIS online. So a big note and reminder, you must be, even though it's an online form, you must be physically present in the US when submitting it, as well as it being receipted by USCIS. And what we mean is, online, very shortly after you hit the submit button, USCIS then is going to upload, it's going to be a PDF called receipt notice. They're going to upload that to your account shortly after. That's your way of knowing that it has been submitted, and USCIS is also acknowledging that it's been receipted. So you need to be physically present in the US when those two steps are happening. We also have on our website a really detailed guide, both written and screenshot instruction guide on how to file the I-765 online. We have the link for that here. It has all the steps are very detailed, even from the very beginning of how to set up a USCIS portal password and username. So really detailed. We get positive feedback from students frequently about that guide. To file, you must complete that first step we talked about earlier in terms of requesting and obtaining the OPT I-20 from ISSS. It is pretty much a guaranteed rejection from USCIS if you try to submit the I-765 without the I-20, OPT I-20 from us. It's pretty much an inevitable rejection. As well as you need to file with USCIS no more than 30 days from when you receive the OPT I-20, or USCIS will also deny your application. And if you ever have concerns with that, or it's cutting it close and you're not sure if you do need a new I-20, you can just reach out to your assigned advisor, or bring it up during a drop-in hour or appointment, and we can kind of let you know what we think the next step should be if we need to reissue it or not. And then we just have USCIS's website that does also have a resource for filing online and information about their online portal system. So online filing reminders, all information is going to be submitted online. There's not going to be any need to mail anything to USCIS. Yeah, all online. It's way more convenient than the mail option used to be. Payment is also something that can be completed also online using a credit or debit card. I believe they also may allow at this point a bank routing number, but at at the very least it's a credit or debit card option, so no need to use a check or money order or anything like that. You must complete all required fields before the system will allow you to proceed. And the system is pretty intuitive. I mean, it will let you know if, as you go through each section, if there's something that you may have missed, it wants you to go back and review again. Yeah, it's a pretty, I will say my opinion, a pretty good system in terms of an online application. And USCIS, as I said before, they're going to upload a receipt notice with your case number in your online portal soon after submission. Okay, so the next step is USCIS adjudication. So what adjudication means is it's pretty much USCIS is going to make some kind of decision on your application. It's typically one of three decisions. It's either an approval or denial, or what's called a request for evidence. When you get it, if there's a request for evidence, if that becomes relevant, your application is still pending. It just means that actually your application's out of the queue. USCIS, an officer, is actively looking at your materials, but they just decide they want to see some extra documents before they make a final decision. In terms of USCIS processing times, there are two different types of processing times. There's regular processing and premium processing, which is an additional fee. For regular processing, it can fluctuate. And so right now we're seeing on average, 3 to 4 months for processing. But again, that is an average. It does fluctuate. Usually those fluctuations, though, there's kind of no rhyme or reason to it. But yeah, that's typically for regular processing. Again, premium processing, it is an additional fee of $1,685. Um, that guarantees that within 30 business days or less, USCIS is going to adjudicate or make some kind of decision on the application. And then there is the option to later on upgrade your application. So if you're unsure if you want to do premium or not, but you don't want that decision to like delay you submitting any further, you can always submit. And then after the fact, as long as the application's still pending, you can upgrade the application. Um, you also receive a case number from USCIS via electronic notification or through the online portal as well. That's how you can, check the status of your case. If you go to USCIS.gov, scroll down a little bit and kind of towards the middle, you'll see a link that says check your case status. You just click on that, put in that case number, and it will bring up the latest update. I think, though, that also auto-generates in your online portal as well. You'll see the same thing there, too. And then, if applicable, as I mentioned, RFE, you will also, in the event that you do receive an RFE, you will be able to respond to that online as well. But we say if you, before responding to it, or even if you just get first one that you did get an RFE, you want to talk to ISSS first. You're ultimately going to be the one that submits the response to the RFE, but we can assist to make sure that, you are responding in the correct way, it's in the correct order, documents, because ISSS, we are well versed with the RFE process. All right, and then the next step is receiving the EAD card. So that will happen very shortly after receiving being notified that essentially you got the approval from USCIS. So you're going to want to contact ISSS if there is any issue regarding, receiving your EAD card or errors, that you notice on the card, or if there's any issues with, again, receiving it in the mail, USPS, anything like that. I know when your EAD card is sent out by USCIS, typically in the case status, they provide tracking because they do, it's like USPS first class tracking. So there will be a tracking link for that. But yeah, so let us know if any questions or concerns come up regarding the card. And then when you do receive the card, you are going to log into iPen and complete the OPT reporting e-form. Even if you don't have a job offer yet or you're still looking, we need you to fill out the OPT reporting e-form, and it'll ask you to upload a front and back scan of the card. That's our way of knowing that you successfully received the card, and then we can have it on file. So it is a really important step after you receive the EAD card. All right, and with that, I will hand it over to Donna.
Thank you, Madison.
Yep.
So, a common question that comes up is when can I start working? So, there's these three important criteria that have to be effective. So, all three of these must be met to determine that your employment authorization is valid and you may begin to work. So, you want, of course, the first one is that OPT was approved by USCIS. You've received the EAD card in the mail and you've reached that start date on the EAD. So if the OPT is approved, you get the card and your card has July 1, but it's only June 15th, you have to make sure you're waiting to July 1 before you start working. So make sure all three of those are met. Okay. So Madison mentioned OPT reporting. So just so it's very important that while you're on OPT, that within 10 days of any updates, you are submitting an IPEN, either the OPT reporting e-form or the address, email, phone e-form. So for the OPT reporting e-form, so you're going to report when you get your EAD, you're going to report when you have your first job, when that job ends, when you add a job, any type of change, you are going to submit that via the IPEN system. And you're also going to be able to go into IPEN and on your homepage, see the latest OPT reporting you have done I'm sorry, the employer that is currently listed for you. Also, anytime that your immigration status changes or that you decide you're going to leave and end your OPT and not continue, you're also using that e-form to update us and so make sure that we're making the appropriate changes. You're going to be under our sponsorship, we're going to be continuing to help you, and this e-form is the best way for you to update us on any changes and make sure that your CVIS record is capturing the most accurate information for you. The other e-form that you want to do within 10 days is very important that any change to your legal name or your address, and that e-form, the address update e-form is there for that, as well as making sure that your email is up to date. So you can go in and if your email, let's say your school email is not going to be valid anymore, you may want to give us a more permanent Gmail address, for example. And, if you have any changes to your phone, making sure you're updating it there. But that e-form itself is another thing that you want to make sure you are completing. Now, for the SEVP portal, this is something that you're going to get an email from the Student Exchange Visitor Program about the time that your OPT is approved. And it may go to your junk mail, so make sure you're checking there too. But it's another option. It's a government way for you to give access, you to be able to view your CVIS information. And you can definitely set up that portal and have that way to look at it. But even with that portal access, we still want to make sure you're doing any of the actual updates through IPEN. So it's another resource for you to be able to see your information, but make sure you're always using IPEN to actually submit changes. Also, it just seems like it's very easy. Individuals get locked out frequently from the portal, or if they don't sign up and they need to reset that access. If you also go into IPEN, we have a CVIS portal e-form where you can request a reset. So that way you get a new email to set up your account or to get back into your account. But just so you know, as long as you're reporting through IPEN, you're doing what is required of you. The portal is an additional thing for maybe smaller schools, for example, may do this directly, but at Penn, we are going to make sure all your updates are done and you're fulfilling your reporting requirements. Okay. All right. A common question we get as well is what is allowed in regards to unemployment time? So, as mentioned before, when you're applying for OPT, you don't have to have a job, and you don't even have to have a job at the start of your OPT, but there is a limit to how many unemployment days you can have. So, during post completion OPT, you cannot accrue more than 90 days of unemployment. So, what I'm referring to is that first 12 months or whatever you have for the post completion OPT. So, it's 90 days over that time. So, and if you, for example, don't work the first month of your OPT, that could possibly be 30 of that 90 days. Or maybe you change jobs and you have 20 days in between jobs. So whatever is accumulating, you just want to make sure you're not getting to the 90th day. And we'll talk a little bit about STEM, but it's not really the focus of this presentation. But just so you know, if someone is able to do the 2-year STEM extension after the first 12 months, it does go up to 150. So just a little side note in regards to that. Another important thing to know is that unemployment time, it it starts counting from the start date on your EAD. So once you get that card and whatever start date is on that EAD, that is when that unemployment starts. It's not from graduation, it's not from, you know, the end of the grace period. It's whatever day you have approved on your card. Um, and just so you know, this is something also you may get alerts from SEVP if you're not doing reporting employment. And it's always possible that they may implement something to terminate records if the 90-day limit is exceeded. But there is a counter in the SEVIS record that shows how many unemployment days there are. All right, travel. Another big question in regards to travel. So in certain cases, travel is not advised. So we'll go over some of those points. Okay. So before the program end date, as mentioned, you have to be in the US when you're filing. Now, once you submit your application, you get that receipt notice in your portal, you can travel as normal as F1. So, for example, I don't know if any of you are traveling over spring break, but let's say students who applied before spring break filed their OPT and now they're traveling like they normally would as a student with the documents that you would do before you come back. So, for example, spring graduates, this would be, most of your I-20s probably have May 19th, 2025 if you're graduating this spring. If you have questions or you're traveling close to the end of your program, it's good to consult with an ISS advisor. Just as a reminder, we have virtual drop ins and at least 1 hour every day, Monday through Friday, as well as appointments. And appointments are released for the following week every day. So if you have questions on travel, but right now, we'll go over a list of like the documents you use, but it's going to be your usual travel documents. I do recommend making sure to read any travel emails we sent, any updates that could have alerts if there's any issues or restrictions on travel, as well as the travel section of our website. So make sure you're always, when you're planning something, any type of travel, is to look at any of our recent announcements and read our emails and look at the newsletter as well, because any updates will be included there. And that's something that goes out every week. Um, After the program end date, if your OPT is still pending, it is not recommended to travel. There's a little bit of increased risk, which I'll go over in a moment. And if you need to renew your visa, it's also recommended not to travel. So if your visa has expired already or will expire before you need to come back, and your EAD hasn't been issued yet, it's not going to be a good idea to travel because you're going to want to have that EAD at the time you would go to the consulate to renew your visa. Okay, we can go ahead. So why do I tell you not to travel while OPT is pending after graduation? Some of the things is unfortunately we see EADs get lost in the mail. And especially with some of the Philadelphia apartments, if the mail is left just in the vestibule, it's dropped off to, a desk. We see this happen frequently, and if you're not here, it's a lot harder to kind of track down what happened. Go to the post office to talk to your building manager. Those are things harder to navigate when you're not here and able to actually visit where the mail may be, where you can actually go through like maybe a pile of mail that the manager has to see if your EAD is in there, or to talk to the post, the postal service worker that services your building, for example. Now, a big thing is that after graduation, if your OPT is denied and you're not in the US, you no longer have that connection to your F1. When you're here, you're in your grace period and you could apply again. But if you've left, you no longer have the grace periods. So you probably won't be able to come back and apply again. So